Hello everyone, this will be an explanation of the IOPS Heart or IOP class. IOP is a predominantly melee-focused character, close range with very few ranged skills, but they have a lot of AoE built into their trees. They have access to the fire, earth, and air elements. Air is focused on quick jabs and very cheap skills that they can use to effortlessly seam combos on their enemies. Earth is high damage with some AoE skills and some ranged skills that focuses on removing the enemy's movement points or stunning them at very low chances. Other than that, it's really good for damage. And then Fire is just all damage all the time with large AoEs and expensive skills that trigger and cause explosions. For the active specialties, you have Jump. This one you can use to close the gap between you and your enemies. It also generates power charges. The higher level it is, at max level, it gets rid of the line of sight requirement, so you can easily hop to an enemy's backside if you want to do backstab damage. You also generate additional power charges, which will continue stacking until you do not generate a power charge in that turn. Defensive stance can be cast to increase the block on your character. At max level, it gives you a 40% additional chance to block, which reduces damage overall by 30% if it triggers. Flatten is kind of like Jump, but it can go farther, and it has a chance of stunning both you and your target when you use it. Use carefully. Bravery Standard is an AoE that goes around the IOP that increases the damage of any of their allies caught in their AoE by 50% at max level. It also increases your overall damage for your next attack by 50%. Elemental. Increase will consume all of your power charges to increase your chance to stun enemies. You're basically sacrificing damage for a higher chance of locking an enemy down to where they can't do anything. A stun makes an enemy miss their turn. For passive specialties, we have Virility, which increases your max HP by 20%. Compulsion, which increases your overall damage by 40% on every element. Authority, which gives you a chance on every attack, up to 3 attacks per turn, to increase your stacks of power. At max level, it's 20 power per level. This caps at 100. Power as overall will cap at plus 100% all damage. Show Off will trigger on ally critical hits and ally kills. It increases the damage of your next attack by a certain percentage depending on how much preparation you've gained. And then Locking Pro passively increases your lock bonus and also gives you a chance of binding an enemy that's in front of you for they're unable to move. At max level, it's a 100% chance as long as the enemy starts their turn to be bound. This has a 1-turn cooldown though. They can only be IOP bound once, and then after that they are free for the next turn to run away. So let's get into combat. First, I'm going to show you the air skills. This was Jump just now. I hopped behind the enemy. So the first skill is Jabs. It's very cheap, but it's very good for damage. The second skill was Flurry. That increases my air damage by 10% for my next air attack. And the third skill is Authority, which actually pushes the enemy back 2 cells. Keep in mind in combat, if they run into one of these fields, it will stop them from getting pushed back any farther. The next skill is Cutting Gust, which only costs MP to cast. This is another important skill for any air IOPs. And lastly, Uppercut, which only costs Wakfu points and does a pretty decent amount of damage for its cost. Next, we've got the Earth skills. The first one is Shaker, which is just pure damage. Then we've got Rhinoceros, which is a ranged attack that does not require line of sight, but has a chance to stun the enemy. You can't use this directly in front of you, so I had to move away. Followed by Impact, which has a small AoE and a chance to remove MP from enemies. Charge, which is a gap closer that works with a direct line to the enemy and has a chance to stun. And lastly for Earth, Devastate, a very powerful AoE skill that casts all around your character. Also has a chance to remove MP. And lastly, the Fire Tree. Again, this is pure damage. The first skill is Thunderbolt. Don't ask the name. It adds scalding charges to the enemy, which will trigger for additional damage if they are standing next to a flamed target. Flaming for an IOP is granted from Celestial Sword, which is the skill I'll use now. As you can see, they just took damage. There's also Judgment, which is a direct line in front of you, does 3 cells back and will hit any enemy caught in the line for additional fire damage, as well as a chance to reduce their range by 1. Super IOP Punch is another gap closer that explodes on impact with an enemy at a chance. And the most important spell to most fire IOPs, IOP's Wrath. This is a large AoE that has another chance to trigger for explosion, but is very expensive, but it does high damage. It also costs a Wakfu point. And that's the IOP. Thank you for watching.